So I will give you an overview of the South African National Biodiversity Institute, just where we came from and what we are. And then I will tell you a bit about the biosystematics and collection section of the institute. And then I'll talk about the work that I was involved in up to now within my research. Sorry, there's some other mismatch in the link because I don't see this. Sorry. So I don't see that there. See, this is sorry about this. Okay, the downside. Okay, so basically, no, sorry. So we started off as the Botanical Research Institute in the early 1970s, the BRI, and then we changed to the National Botanical Institute around about 1990. And then in 2006 we became the SANBI, which is the South African National Biodiversity Institute. So we went from only looking at plants, working with plants, the institute focused on that. Becoming the NBI, we joined up with botanical gardens throughout South Africa, and then eventually we became mandated by government actually to report to government on the state of biodiversity, and not only plants, but we still focus on plants within SANBI, and then we collaborate on the other biodiversity groups throughout the country. Still not working, but anyway. So this is just a diagram to show what we are doing. So SANBI, there's the bottom 3 levels of work we're doing, and both Marianne and myself is part of this Foundations of Biodiversity, where we do collections, we do the taxonomy of plants, we do inventory of plants, that's the checklist, we create distribution maps, and we do the classification of ecosystems and species. In the purple, we've got the second level, that is the biodiversity planning and knowledge gathering. So there is where people, for example, do the assessments, the red list assessment of species, the status of species, whether they are declining or increasing, all kinds of trends in terms of our biodiversity, monitoring and modeling. And then the third level is where science is then going into policy, that consists of information gathering, planning, policy advice, modeling, and different tools that are produced to inform government on the state of the biodiversity. And those 3 levels of work that we do at SANBI is underpinned by the botanical gardens spread throughout the country, but also human capital development that is done within the institute. So the bottom 3 arrows is what we are doing, and we eventually influence the top bit to have all those goals in South Africa. Botanical gardens spread over South Africa. We start at the bottom here. We've got the Kirstenbosch Botanical Garden, Harold Porter, and Peru Desert Botanical Garden. So they are all in the Western Cape province. So this is the Western Cape province. Then on the border with the Northern Cape, there is the Hankam Peru National Botanical Garden. Going to the Eastern Cape is that province there, Caldera National Botanical Garden. In the Free State is the Free State Botanical Garden, KwaZulu-Natal Botanical Garden. In Gauteng, that's the smallest province of South Africa, we've got 2 botanical gardens, the Walter Sisulu, as well as the Pretoria National Botanical Garden. And our herbarium is situated within that botanical garden. Then we've also got in the Mpumalanga province, we've got the local botanical garden, and the newest botanical garden is in Thohoyandou, the Limpopo province. So there's 11 botanical gardens spread all over the country. And within South Africa, we've got 3 herbaria. So the national herbarium is situated with the Pretoria Botanical Garden. We've got the Compton Herbarium in Kirstenbosch, and we've got, not in the Natal Botanical Garden, but in Durban, on the coast, we've got the KwaZulu Herbarium. Yes, and then recently, it's not already part of us, but SANBI will also be amalgamating with the National Zoological Gardens in October this year. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about a little bit more about the herbaria. So yeah, just for the information, but I'm sure all of you know most of the next 2 or 3 slides. Just a little bit, the herbarium is a collection of dried plant specimens that is arranged and accessible, arranged in a specific order. And that is a very important source of information for us to actually study the vegetation and study smaller groups of plants. There's various different kinds of herbaria, so I've showed you the 3 herbaria in South Africa. In a herbarium, we then have all those words in black. What is important is to do the identifications, to provide a service to people that want to know what is the identity of a species. We do a lot of nomenclature to make sure that the taxonomic aspects of a name is properly understood. We do the classification, the ecology and the use of plants. And then I don't know in the Philippines, but herbaria in South Africa, SANBI is sponsored by or financed by government. And then we've got a whole series of different herbariums that are in most cases associated either with the universities or with conservation agencies within the country. Okay, I'm not going to go through that slide, the functions of the herbarium. If we look at the picture there's just a little bit of the national herbarium. So we've got wooden cabinets and we've got steel cabinets that house our collection. You can see a number of staff working in the herbarium. And then just to place it a little bit into context, if we look at the largest herbaria in the world, there you can see, okay, this is a little bit outdated, but this is the only published information where a lot of information was gathered together. So Paris is the leading herbarium with about almost 9 million specimens. So if you actually look at all those herbaria, most of them are in the northern hemisphere. None of them are in the southern hemisphere. So it's always, all the mostly European and American herbaria. If we actually look at the southern hemisphere where South Africa falls, then you can see Pretoria's got about 1.2 million specimens. Java, Bogor, the herbarium in Bogor is the largest in the southern hemisphere with about 1.6 million specimens. But then you will also see there's also various other herbaria in the top 10. And if we look at South Africa specifically, the ones with the asterisks, those are the SANBI herbaria. So in the top 10 largest herbaria in South Africa, all 3 SANBI herbaria features there. The third one there, the Compton herbarium. So that includes also the South African Museum herbarium that was historically a separate collection, and then it was combined with Compton. They've got about 500,000 specimens, and also the Natal herbarium with about 100,000 specimens. So if we look at those 3 herbariums, there's a picture of the National Herbarium in Pretoria. So this herbarium was established in 1905, so we've already had our centenary. It was initially it was housed at Union Buildings, which is the site of our parliament, of our governments in Pretoria, and then it moved to that location in the 1970s. We also have the Natal herbarium, that's the oldest herbarium in South Africa, established in 1882. What is interesting about this is a regional herbarium, so this only covers the flora of that one province. So they focus on that. And then another regional herbarium, the Compton herbarium, but the Compton herbarium focuses on the Eastern, Western Cape and Northern Cape. So the Cape Floristic region, the Subpolar Peru, and the Nama Peru. Just to show some pictures of some of the botanical gardens. So at the top right, that is the botanical garden, the Lowveld Botanical Garden. Bottom right, that is the National Botanical Garden in Pretoria, and on the left-hand side is the Walter Sisulu Botanical Garden. So you've got a lot of rain here. We are a very dry country, so water is very important in our country, so that's why all the slides have got water in them. So the top there is the Free State Botanical Garden, a picture from there. And then the two botanical gardens in the Cape Floristic region. On the left-hand side, Kirstenbosch, Strelitzia, and Betty's Bay on the right-hand side. So Marianne's just talked about the FSA region, but just for everybody to be sure that you know where South Africa is. So we are on the right, on the southern tip of Africa, and the flora of the region consists out of those 5 countries: Swaziland, Lesotho, Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa. We've got a publication section, and traditionally they produced a range of publications. The news of the publications that we produce is a conservation series, so that usually house publication on the other biodiversity other than the botanical aspects. But we also have a series that's almost now running, I think in 2021, I think it will be running for 100 years, the flowering plants of Africa. So contributions from over the whole of the continent is placed in there, and that is done as a botanical art plate of a plant, and then a summary of all the information that is known about that species. But we also have the Strelitzia series, which contains all our checklists, and we've got a journal, the Old Butalia, which is now an online journal, ABC, African Biodiversity and Conservation Journal. So Butalia has changed over to ABC. Okay, and so now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the National Plant Collecting Program. So we've heard also in the Philippines, and it seems like it's very difficult actually to do field work here, but there's large areas of South Africa that's still unexplored, and there's also, like here, there's a lot of new species to be found. So we do have a program. The last few years it hasn't been really very active, but we are working on getting it going again. But this is the National Plant Collecting Program, where we actually identify areas within South Africa that is under-collected, and we try and focus to do collections from those areas. Just to quickly give you some information, South Africa, the flora of South Africa is 7 times larger than the flora of the whole Europe. It is 5.5 times richer than the flora of tropical Africa. This is in terms of taxa. And it is 2.5 times larger than the whole Australian flora. So again, like the Philippines, it's a very small country, but with a vast biodiversity. South Africa, more or less 24,000 taxa. So I'm just going to skip that. So the National Plant Collecting Program started in 1984, and it's been very active until about 2012. And then there was a whole change in the way that we had to apply for permits and all kinds of problems. And so that's why I said it hasn't been active for the last few years. But the aim of this project is actually to collect the biodiversity, and in this case the plant biodiversity of the South African flora. So one of the outcomes would be to have a very exact distribution map for each of the species, but also to actually have herbarium specimens that show the range of diversity within taxa. Some of the objectives of the program is to have organized expansion of the collection. So we won't necessarily go to areas that is highly collected. We will rather go to areas that's got a lot of endemic species, where we actually have few collections from. To obtain a complete record of the South African flora, the complete distribution records, to to record the plant biodiversity and the plant variation. So the way we've done it in the past, we've divided the country into what we call quartered and grid squares, because a lot of the historical specimens didn't have a very exact collection site. So we use this system by dividing the country into, firstly, a degree square, and each degree square is divided into 16 quarter degree squares, and we use that system to actually indicate where the distribution is. So this is a very practical way to show your distributions when you don't have GPS readings like we have today. And if we've done that, we actually can produce a map from our database to actually show. The red indicates areas where we don't have a single plant specimen collected from. So for the region, you will see most of those red dots is actually in Botswana. So in terms of the distribution for the region, that is areas where we should work. But because we changed to Sandy, we are now mandated to actually focus on South Africa. So there's a lot of work still to be done in both Namibia and Botswana. But you can see the circle I've indicated in South Africa, there's even places that there's not a single plant specimen recorded from. I must just mention this data was taken from the database, only reflecting the collections in Pretoria, not including the other two areas. So if we look at that circle, we can then produce these maps to indicate in what areas we should focus our collection activities. So here you can see on the left-hand side, you can see there's quite a lot of zero specimen grids in 1984, and through this project that we have, the National Plant Collecting Project, you can see in 2010 we have actually did some work in those areas, and you can see that we've actually moved from quite a number of zero grids to only 95 grids. But then also these maps, if you look at that area just below Lesotho, you can see even there was a grid that hadn't had any specimens collected, but over time, through this project, we actually increased our knowledge of those, or the plant specimens and the knowledge of plants from those areas. So the map that's then produced from the database shows us where to go and what are the important areas. So this is just for general collecting. You will still have, Marihan might work on Protolaria, so you can also produce a map like that for that genus, so her priorities might be different to the general collection priorities. What is very important is actually if you go to a specific area, it's never a once-off thing. You have to go to the same area over and over and over again, and you will get a graph eventually where you see, okay, now the time is not, it's not productive to go there anymore because you don't find a lot of new things there. But even in the winter, harsh winter times, if you go to some places in South Africa, you are astonished to see, oh, there's actually something flowering, everything should be dead and underground now, but in the midst of winter you get specialized plants that also flower during that time. Same place over and over, and you have to go at various times, but you also have to go there in different times. For example, when you had a lot of rain, things might start growing that you haven't encountered before, or if there were ecological things like fires, which is very important in South Africa. To go after a fire to a location, you might find something that hasn't been picked up for many years. Okay, this is just a few slides to show how we actually move. Let me just go back. So the blue dots are where it is very highly collected areas, but if you just focus on the blue, you can see over time it actually increases. So fieldwork in Africa is probably in some aspects much easier. I've heard this morning about all the rotting plants and the high humidity. So we only have that on our eastern coast. But generally we take out our presses with us to the field. We usually go out early in the morning. As soon as the light comes, it's light enough, we start collecting. We will press through the mid-grain section. We will go out again in the afternoon and press till it's late at night. So I'm really a field botanist, and that is my passion. But there's all kinds of other things. Sometimes we get stuck in the mud, although it's a dry country, but we really get out to see lovely areas of our country while doing field work. So that's just, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys. That is an added benefit of doing field work.
Why is there a teddy bear there?
Sorry? Should I go back?
What is the teddy bear doing there?
Oh, sorry, I actually have another one in my bag. So the little dog is a colleague of ours. It's called eine kleine Hund. It's a little stuffed, it's a little dog. So she takes it everywhere. I've got Podo in my, it's named Podo. Maybe Marianne can show you. Sorry, go. So in the institute we've got this little bear, and it goes with scientists all over the world, and we have to take like a picture of him somewhere. So it's his name is Podo, and it comes from Podocarpus, which is our national tree. He's also a Podocarpus, and he's got a cousin who is Henk. And that comes from Henkeli, so our national tree is Podocarpus henkeli. So Podo and Henk, but Henk is now immigrated to Australia. So Podo, it's the first time that he's been to the Philippines. So he's been like in, I think, 30 or 40 countries already, more. Wow. So he's been traveling for the last 20 years.
Visa free?
Actually, I have one. I have a little flushing frog that when I go out of the country, I bring it with me.
Yes.
So that in all places, if I can't get a selfie, so selfie was invented a few years ago. But prior to that, if I wanted my seat, I took the frog there as for, I was there because the frog was always there.
So I didn't bring, Podo's got a whole bag with all kinds of badges and little, yes, all kinds of flags of the whole world that he's been. So yes. So I've seen some pictures of your grasslands. This comes from our Namakaroo, but that is grass. So that is like abnormal. This was after very good rains. That is in March. So it's just before it becomes our winter season. And then you have all these annual grasses coming up. Usually it will be just desert with sand as far as you can see. So this is the tallest about that most of our grasses get, except for KwaZulu-Natal. Maybe there's taller grasses, but usually we actually have quite short grasslands. So field work very important, and we get to places that we just camp out. There's vast areas in South Africa that actually is quite low in terms of the habitation of people, so it's quite safe to go to any of these places as well. Just more, so this is our Sabonet collection vehicle. Okay, and part of this national plant collecting program, we were lucky to actually link up with the national parks in South Africa, and for some years we actually had a program together with them, also because they have a shortage of manpower to actually do surveys within the parks. So, and that was for us very, very nice, because we could get access to these parks and we could actually do plant collections in those parks. Not going to go through that. It's basically the same objectives and outcomes than the National Plant Collecting Program. And these are some of the national parks that we've worked in: Okrabis, Namakoland, Kampua, Peru National Park, Kamdebue National Park, and Mountain Zebra National Park. So all of these are the so-called, we call them the Eru parks, so that is the arid national parks. Then I'm just going to say something about the biomes in South Africa. So we've got 9 different biomes. That includes, actually it's 8 biomes, but also the azonal vegetation that occurs along the river margins. But the biomes that we have, we've got a small biome in white there at the top, so that's the real desert biome, and I will show you some pictures of that. Then here in green we've got the Fynbos biome with the Cape floristic region. Within that, the pink there is the Nama Peru biome. The brown is the succulent biome. And then you will see the forest patches is mainly along the coast and some in the mid grasslands. So that's scattered throughout mostly the southern and eastern part of the country. The orange there at the top is the savanna biome, so that is the largest biome in South Africa. And the second largest one is this pale green, the grassland biome. So we really essentially, those two biomes make up more than half of the country. And then on the eastern coast, we've got the Indian Ocean coastal belt. So I'll just show you some of the work that I've done in a few of those biomes. So firstly, so Mariana's mentioned Namakwaland. So this is the annual floral display of ephemerals. So within like 6 weeks, from mid-August to September, you get the change of all this from a dry, sandy habitat with only rocks. Sorry, I don't know why that's moving on. So that's the succulent Peru. On that map, it is indicated by the yellow section, so you can just see where it is. So it is dominated usually by succulent plants, phages from the Izoaceae, which we used to put in the Mesembryanthemaceae. So it's got very little rain, 20 millimeters to 290 millimeters in a year. It is very dry and the rain occurs in summertime, and it is relatively low altitude areas. So it is on the coast. You can see the sea in the background and all these shrubs in the foreground with the pink flowers. That is the so-called phages. So this is more typical of the succulent Peru. So all these succulent plants in the foreground, all those bushy clumps, those are all kinds of euphorbias. The tall stems, that's the quiver tree, Aloe. And as you can see, very dry, very little herbs in the normal throughout the year. And then you get that 6-week period where the annuals coming in and it just changed the landscape. So this is Tampa, Peru. You can see all these white is geophytes, so a large percentage of the flora in that area actually retracts and are protected by underground structures, so that when they're perennial, they only come out during the peak flowering time. So just to show all those dots, so that was, yes, in 1986, it was actually a very small park, Tampa, Peru. Indicated there in the grey, darker grey, and this park expanded, and together with a bigger park, the human capacity didn't expand together with that, so that was the reason why we started this program in that park. And all the dots you see there, that was all the collection sites where we actually collected over about 6 years, 8 years time. Then sometimes, the Mesia arenifera, that was one of the species that I described. I didn't find the species, I collected quite a number of it, but this was one of the species that was actually within the herbarium, known to be a new species for almost 60 years, and nobody described it. I don't know why. And when we found it, me and the colleague, we decided that we had to describe it. So this was done in the Namakwa National Park, and so we did find quite a number of new species through this project. So this is in the Stoffel. It's a very small little plant, about 10 centimeters tall, with very, very small flowers. Yes, and arenifera refers to, you can see the sand, so it's a very sticky plant, and the sand sticks to the leaves, so it refers to that situation when the name comes. Then you can see our grasslands are quite different to yours. As I said, very short grasslands, a lot of fire, which stimulate a lot of the regeneration of plants. So there's a single dominant grass layer. what is very interesting, although we call it grasslands, there are actually a higher diversity of herbaceous plants within that than the grasses themselves. Okay? So up to 700 millimeters of rain, which is much lower than you've got here. There's also, except for the herbs, there's also a huge variety of geophytes. And as I said, the very low temperatures in winter causes all these plants to go underground, and then they also resprout out of the fires. Another factor is the grazing, of course, with all the ungulates, all the bug species that was naturally occurring in those areas that maintain grasslands. So this is like in the beginning of autumn, where the grasses start turning red and brown, and you then you get this magnificent landscapes. This is in peak summer, so just to illustrate, here most of the grasses are very short. This area had some fire just like 2 months before this picture was taken, but you can see the diversity of plants in between the grasses. So the grasses hasn't started flowering yet, but there's a huge variety of plants associated with grasses. Okay, and then on my family specifically, there was an African Plants Initiative, and I had a project where I looked at the Possinaceae in this project. So I only focused at the eastern half of the country, at the Possinaceae that occurs there. The family of Possinaceae is one of the 10 largest families in South Africa, around about position 6. And so we've got almost 800 different species of Possinaceae in South Africa. And the focus was actually to then look at these areas that was actually under-collected to actually sample more in those areas. So in that project you can just see all those red dots, how they move to yellow and orange as we collected specifically in those areas with Possinaceae. And then yes, a new species discovered. At that stage because it is not a group that I work, I actually know that group quite well. And I had a professor that said, luck fails the prepared mind. So if you know a group, you can immediately tell if something is different. So we collected this specimen. A colleague of mine, she said, Peter, come over, this is one of your plants. And when I looked at it, I said, it doesn't look familiar at all. And this time turned out to be a new species. It is actually submitted for publication. This is another example. This species was described by myself. So this again was a species that was actually, there was specimens in the cupboards for almost 80 years. There was a preliminary description done, but it was never published. So there's lots of literature about the value of herbarium specimens, and there's a large quantity of undescribed species that are currently in herbaria, that there's just not a specialist working on that group or some other reason why it hasn't been described. So actually, even if you don't go out into the field, you can work in the herbarium and describe and find a lot of new species. So again, our grasslands, this is also another new species. So the ones I work on is this geophytic herbs, and they are all very, very small plants. And then there are some species that are very cryptic. So in some cases, this species was actually referred to as the same as the top, but if you start looking into the detail, you find out that there are actually different events. And then I think this is where I'm going to end with the desert biome. So these mainly xerophytic and annual plants. It's the smallest biome in South Africa. Altitude up to 720 meters, up to only 70 millimeters of rain annually. And on this map, the desert biome is just that separation between South Africa and Namibia. So this is the Richtersveld National Park. But again, if you actually are there after good rains, it is so interesting because it looks quite populated in terms of plants, but there are so much diversity, especially in succulents in this park. And again you see our connecting vehicle with a trailer full of presses. So it looks like there's nothing, but if you actually go and look between the rocks, you find a lot of succulents. And that is just the river edge. So that is the Orange River between South Africa and Namibia. Namibia is in the northern side of it. So that is where you get the green bits. And through this project we had with the sandbox, we also extended a lot of distributions. So one of the things is this Orthantera that we found. We found 2 records within South Africa, and it wasn't known for the country before. So that would change Marianne's checklists. Oh, sorry. Would you get 5 months? So the Savannah Karoo, that is one of the largest in South Africa. So you've got a distinct grass layer, but also with trees scattered throughout. This goes to high altitudes, up to 2,000 meters, with some of the highest rainfall needs. And again, if you focus on a specific species, this was a threatened species only known from around the just north of Pretoria. But when we actually went out and specifically went to that kind of habitat, we actually found it actually distributed from Bloemfontein, Sasolburg, and then even a specimen in Zimbabwe. So it's always worthwhile to go out into the wild and collect everything that you see, because you never know whether it would be something special. The same with this species. For 100 years we only knew about one specimen that was collected by Rudolf Schlechter, and that specimen was destroyed in the Berlin Herbarium during the Second World War. But so it was only known from a location just north of Pretoria. And again, when you go to the specific habitat where this plant grows, we actually found it everywhere. So yeah. So I'm just going to skip that one. That's not as important. So there's the macroland. Sometimes we stay on farms, just using the sheds to actually process our specimens. And it's really, for me, it's really a pleasure to meet you as well. So just to end up, I'm sure you will agree with me, the more we find out about plants around us, the more we realize how little we know.